Hello, Internet. It's Daniel with Driving and Dragons, and today I'm coming back to you with another player profile, going positive this time, and we're going to talk about having the veteran at your table. See you on the other side. So the veteran player. What is the veteran that you have at your table? Now, we're not talking about that veteran that pretty much every table ends up having, which is just the guy who's familiar with whatever game you're playing. I've been playing Cyberpunk for 20 years. I've been playing Dungeons & Dragons since the 70s. Whatever the case may be. The veteran player is a little bit rarer than that, and he is definitely a good person for you to have at your table as a game master. The veteran is the guy who has played all kinds of different games. He is the guy who has experience with Shadowrun and Dungeons & Dragons and Cyberpunk and Gamma World and Top Secret and Conan and Aliens. This is the guy who enjoys role-playing games, and he has been a game master almost as frequently, if not more frequently, than he's been a player. The reason that this guy is good for you to have at your table, he is a great resource to have as a game master. He can make your life a lot easier because he can help you come up with the right solution to difficult situations. So for instance, you have a player, they want to do something, you have to make a ruling on it because, well, you're the game master. And he can say something like, man, this would be great if we had the cool stat like we do in Cyberpunk, or it'd be great if we had the luck like Cyberpunk or Call of Cthulhu has. It'd be really helpful in this situation. Or wouldn't it be great if you could push a roll? And while that may not be the 100% solution that you want to go with, it may not be the way you handle it, it may be the inspiration you need to use your game master's discretion, your Rule Zero power, to correctly move the game along. These players are also fantastic at helping understand certain circumstances. So I talk often about creative anachronism, basically taking stuff out of context and putting it forward. And I do that both with historical events and time periods, but I also do that kind of fourth wall breaking by going across genre. And I think we all kind of do that. We take the thing we saw in Star Wars and we put it in our Dungeons & Dragons game. We take the thing that we saw in an Indiana Jones movie and we move it into something else. We take something that would be we take a Cyberpunk scenario and we adapt it to Dungeons & Dragons. Or we take a Dungeons & Dragons scenario and we adapt it to Cyberpunk or to Shadowrun or to any number of different places. We take a GURPS world, with our GURPS Vampire the Masquerade families, and we adapt those over into a totally new scenario. Maybe we put it in Traveler, and it's not just vampire clans, it's the vampires of different worlds that make the families. And that veteran player can recognize those similarities. And while sometimes this kind of comes across as, man, you're busting up my scenario by, saying, oh, it's just like such and such. But on the other hand, if you have players who are kind of having trouble grasping that, you have that one guy who's like, man, I know this. This is just like whatever. This is just like GURPS. These families are just like the Vampire the Masquerade families. The only difference is they're on different planets. I think I know how this works now. I understand these dynamics. And while there's some metagaming that goes on there because, that player is using knowledge from outside, he's also helping everybody else understand what their characters would probably understand anyway. So if your characters are going to have a more detailed understanding of the world anyway, because they live in it. And to them, this is, there's going to be things that they've heard and that have just been part of their reality since childhood that are not going to be first and foremost in your player's mind, because your players are only in this world, in this little microcosm of time when they're playing their now adult characters. So that veteran player can also be a massive help in helping people understand how the social dynamics work in a particular world, or help draw some parallels that help your other players grasp the concept, so you're not spending 20 or 30 minutes trying to explain something to everybody and they're just not getting it. I am at my heart a salesperson. I work in the mortgage industry. I'm a financier and a mortgage lender, and what I do is essentially sales on a very high level. And there's something we've always had in sales called a change of face. Now, a change of face is, we'll use a car dealership as an example. You go into the car dealership, the car salesman's talking to you, you're not getting anywhere. He goes in, hey, give me 1 second. He goes inside and he gets either a manager or another salesperson, or somebody comes out and says, oh, hey, this is so-and-so. He's an expert on whatever it is we're reaching an impasse about. And then he explains it to you in a way that you understand, and the process moves forward. It's called a change of face. It has nothing to do with management or expertise or anything. What it has to do with is I'm explaining something in a way that you're not getting it. And I'm having trouble putting that information out in a way that you can use it to make an informed decision, and that's clogging up my process. So what I do is I go get another person. It may just be another salesperson. Heck, it may be a salesperson who's less experienced and knowledgeable than me, but he presents the information in a different way. Now you understand it, you digest it, and you can make an informed decision on it. It's called a change of face. The same thing happens at your gaming table with this veteran player. You're trying to explain how a certain world works to the rest of your players. And all of a sudden the veteran pipes in and says, man, it's just like such and such movie. Or it works just like such and such from this book. Or think of it like this. And bam, they click. You just had a change of face. It wasn't something you could do. You weren't getting there, but that veteran helps. They almost function in a lot of ways like a co-GM, and they do so without trying to steamroll or run over you. They do so without the rules of lawyering. They offer some suggestions. They're more pitching an idea that then you turn around and use rather than trying to argue with you. And they just become a very useful player to have at your table. Seeking them out is a little on the difficult side, but that's just something to look for. If you're forming a group and you're talking to new players and you're saying, hey, so what do you do? And the guy's like, well, I've played a bunch of different games. I've been playing since the 90s. While I mainly play Dungeons and Dragons, I did a lot of Cyberpunk, and I played Traveler and Call of Cthulhu. Now all of a sudden you've got somebody who has that knowledge base that can help you out. The other big advantage for somebody like me to having the veteran player is if you want to change games. If you have a Dungeons and Dragons group, sometimes it's very difficult to get them to budge off Dungeons and Dragons, because nobody wants to be the first person to take that step into something that's quote unquote uncomfortable or new for them. They're all comfortable and cozy in their Dungeons and Dragons game. But when you have that veteran player who's played a bunch of other stuff, and you as a GM come up and say, hey, great campaign, guys, this was a lot of fun. For our next one, I was thinking, hey, how does it sound if we do a little sci-fi? Who wants to play Traveler? Even if that veteran hasn't played Traveler, he's switched games more than once. He's familiar with it, and he gets excited by it. Then he gets your players excited, and now you have that variety added to your table that just improves everybody's experience. And you end up not just with a Dungeons and Dragons or just a Cyberpunk group. You end up with a role-playing group, and that also kind of helps your group stay together. Because when a guy's getting bored with Dungeons and Dragons, and if that's all you play, he's going to go find someplace else to play. But if you change it up and things cycle through, you get that nice healthy balance, and you end up with that long enduring group. And it's just a very helpful thing to have. And the veteran player is a big key to that. He can help turn all your other players into a new crop of veterans. Like, share, and subscribe. Tell me what you think in the comments below. Who's the veteran at your table? Does it happen to be the GM, or is your GM lucky enough to have another? See you guys next time.